Are you worried about your intonation, projection, or finger facility? Those three things may seem unconnected, but I have tips for all of them. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Brian from Airflow Music. Alongside publishing our books for brass players, we're releasing a ton of videos with tips to make brass playing easier for you. So if you're new here, please subscribe to the Airflow Music channel so you're notified of all of our videos. This video is part of the Trumpet A-Z series. Before we get going, I'd like to know what topics make up your Trumpet A-Z. Please comment below with either individual letters or the entire alphabet. To keep your trumpet playing under control, you need a firm grasp on the instrument and for your fingers to be primed and ready. I have tips for both. H is for hands. The role of the left hand is primarily to hold and support the instrument. We touched on that briefly in the video G for grip, but that was more in terms of an irregular way to hold the trumpet in order to work on something else. In case you didn't see it, that video is linked in the cards up here or in the description underneath this video. For regular playing, we obviously need to hold the trumpet around the valve section to keep it under control, but there are a couple of different hand positions we commonly use, and they can affect your playing in different ways, depending on what style, genre, or register you most commonly play in. Here are a couple of things to think about. Firstly, our hand position impacts our ability to move the valve slides. Now, this can vary depending on the particular configuration of your instrument, how many saddles, rings, or triggers it may have. But the position of your left hand affects how much access you have to adjust the slides for intonation. This can be important if you play in the low register a lot, or if your particular trumpet requires a little help with intonation. Perhaps you're playing C trumpet, for example. In that case, you'll want to hold your trumpet a little further up the casings so you can move the slides more easily. The second thing is that hand position can actually affect range and projection. Again, this varies on your particular equipment, but if you are holding the trumpet very high up the casings, so much so that your hand is in contact with the bell section, then that does affect its ability to resonate at certain frequencies. And this can make it more difficult to get zing or sizzle in your sound if you're playing lead, or to access the upper register at all because it simply deadens some of the high frequencies. It's something that's more noticeable if you're playing in a larger room, so I encourage you to experiment with it outside of the practice room. If you're playing lead and you're in the upper register all the time, you also may not need to move the slides so much, so a lower grip may be appropriate. I'm interested to know how you hold your trumpet. Please comment below, letting me know which genre of music you most commonly play and whether that has any bearing on how you position your left hand. In this video, I particularly wanted to talk about your right hand position and the position of your fingers on the valves, since lazy finger technique is something that held me up for a long time, and it's a problem I see in many of my students. There are three things I look out for. The first thing for finger or valve technique is to position your fingers in line with the valves. I aim for my index finger to be parallel with the valve casing. This may seem obvious, but I see entirely too many students who complain that certain fingering combinations are difficult for them, particularly combinations including the third valve, yet they play with their hand on a diagonal, so they're stretching to reach that third valve. They're just making it harder for themselves. In terms of thumb position, I care less whether your thumb is tucked under next to the lead pipe, or if it's resting on the lead pipe or gripping like that, because frankly I do all three at different times depending on what I'm playing. There are often occasions when I need to be able to support the trumpet with one hand, for instance if I'm using a mute, or I need to equalize my lateral mouthpiece pressure when I'm playing in the upper register. The second thing that goes along with that is that I don't default to having my pinky in the ring. I'll do it different ways at different times. I'm aware, for instance, that my fingers move more freely when it's out, but again, when I need to support the trumpet with one hand, it needs to be in there. Secondly, I try to play in a fairly relaxed hand position where my wrist and forearm can remain reasonably straight. I notice a lot of younger students in particular who try to rest their palm on the second valve slide. This causes them to either bend at the wrist or close their posture by pinning their arms to their sides. It can also make their fingers flat on the valves as well. Particularly as I get older, I notice the benefit of giving my tendons the easiest path to move to keep my fingers running smoothly. That means pads of the fingers on the valve buttons and each knuckle slightly bent, so you're not particularly relying on a lot of motion in each one. Also, maintaining a more open posture helps you stay more relaxed as you play and keeps you from constricting your sound. Thirdly, I like to try and keep my fingers on or very close to the valve buttons at all times when I'm playing. I heartily agree that we should push the valves down firmly, or bang the valves down hard as Claude Gordon might say, but I'm not sure there's any logic in lifting the fingers higher off the valve buttons than necessary, or particularly not to have them floating around in the air when other valves are pressed. Moving your fingers further than you need to takes more energy and time, so it'll make it more difficult to move your valves cleanly and quickly. Again, I'm interested to hear what you have to say on this subject. Is there something you've learnt about finger and valve technique that I'm not considering? If so, please let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to the Airflow Music channel, so you're notified of all of our upcoming videos, and to make it easier to find other ones you may wish to watch. There's actually one linked on the screen right now. If you'd like to support us in making videos like this, please visit airflowmusic.com and consider purchasing a book or a lesson. We'd really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Now, go practice.